time to check out one of the ultra-durable motherboards from Gigabyte. This is the Gigabyte Z97X-UD5H-BK. BK stands for black, not butt-kicking, not basketball killers. Anyway, what we have here is a board that's really focusing on safety and security, but it's kind of an interesting mix of, like, you know, server-grade stuff with the ultra durable and all that, and then enthusiast stuff because you can do a lot of overclocking. So as far as safety goes, well, you have two UEFI BIOS chips, and you know, it can switch between either one of those. If one of them goes bad, you can just use the other one. These are both soldered to the PCB, so you can't remove them without, you know, doing a little bit of desoldering, so that's kind of a pain, but you do have two, so that's better than most. So we also have the ESD protection for the USB and the LAN, some nice beefy you know, LAN ports and that sort of thing on the back. There's even power surge protection built into the board, and last but not least, they have humidity protection with this new, what are they calling it? It's new glass fabric PCB. Kind of interesting. I haven't tried that out. We should leave it outside, not in the rain, but in the fog, and just see how it performs. I don't think the rest of the components, like the RAM and the you know, the graphics card and that sort of thing, are made for that, so I don't think I'll do that. All right, as far as durable goes, we have 2 ounces of copper. That's twice what they normally use into the PCB. So we have a nice PCB. We also have, you know, gold-plated CPU socket. It's going to be nice. That also can help for a lot of people are like, who cares, man? I'm going to put my CPU in there and whatever. If you're removing your CPU more than a few times, it can be nice to have something like that. And last but not least, around the motherboard, you're going to see these black, they're extra durable capacitors. They're 10K capacitors. And yeah, those things are rated like 105 degrees Celsius, so pretty nice. As far as the power delivery system, we have a 12-phase power delivery system using those same capacitors and some really beefy MOSFETs there. So just a pretty nice power delivery system. And the thing that, you know, really, for me, matters with the power delivery systems is this thing was able to take the i5 all the way up to 5.1 gigahertz. So it can do a pretty good job with overclocking. And for reference, that was using the Neptune 280L water cooling unit that's on there right now from Cooler Master. All right, let's take a full tour of this motherboard. All right, starting off, you can see the CPU socket here. We have plenty of room for large cooling units. And this one is actually decent sized as far as water cooling units goes. Got some pretty good tubes coming out of here. There's the 12-phase power design all around there. I also want to note that we have 2 4-pin PWM fans for the CPU socket, so even the optional fan is a 4-pin PWM fan, so that's very nice. Over here we have our 4 RAM slots, and it can max out at 32 gigabytes, and 1600 is, of course, the default for the chipset, but they're saying you should be able to get, you know, over 2900 megahertz with overclocking. Up here we have a couple of switches for, you know, clear the CMOS. One is reset. Then we also have a power button on there. Then we have a couple of switches up here to add extra power, extra voltage if you need it for overclocking. So just flip those in extreme circumstances. All right, just beneath that, we have our 24-pin power connector. And then we have the USB 3 for the front panel right there. And then beyond that, we have, you know, the little error code, I guess, digital readout thing. So over here we have 8 SATA ports. And I want to note that there's also SATA Express on the bottom there. That'll take up 2 of your SATA ports, of course, but SATA Express is, you know, up to 10 gigabit. So quite a bit faster there. When we see some SATA Express devices coming out of the market, that'll be fun. Here on the bottom here, that's extra power for, I guess, if you have too many, you know, PCI Express graphics cards going on and you need some extra power delivered to the PCI Express lanes, you can just plug up a SATA power connector right there and send some more power right on over. All right, going across the bottom here, we have 2 fan headers, and then we have all your front panel connectors. The fan headers on the bottom are a 3-pin, then a 4-pin, so a variety of different connectors. Then we have a couple of USB connectors down here. Moving on over, another fan header, so it looks like all the fan headers are on the bottom. Then you've got your trusted platform module, got serial port, old school stuff, and another 4-pin fan header right there. Then we have SPDIF and, of course, your front panel audio. Let's take a look at the audio over here. You can see we have some dedicated audio capacitors over here on the side, and we do have an op amp on board, so there's that, which is really nice. And this is also going to provide some power. Up to 600 ohm headphones are going to work just fine with this audio solution. And they've separated the PCB here, and you can see that right there. It'll you know, light up to show you that the PCB is separate. And one other thing that they've done is they've put the left and the right channel on different layers That's not like you can't see it here separated, but it's different layers into the PCB because PCBs are multiple layers. But they've put those on different layers to help minimize the crosstalk. So they've done a lot to help ensure decent quality audio with this motherboard. Now the audio on this is indeed the Realtek ALC 1150, and I do want to note that the amplifier is only for the back port. So just take that into account. All right, let's go ahead and look at the back port. We have all of our audio connections, full surround sound is supported, plus the optical audio SPDIF. And then we have two Ethernet ports on the back. One is a killer NIC that's based on the Atheros, and then the other one is an Intel. So we have both options here, and it's going to be kind of interesting to put these both head to head and see which one is a little bit faster. Of course, the killer has all the software and the optimizations for gaming, but the Intel, I don't know, might not do that bad of a job at all. In fact, they may be almost similar, but we need to test them out. Then we have 6 USB 3.0 ports and 2 more USB 2.0 ports. Of course, there's the other USB headers on the inside plus the USB 3 header. And I want to note that the chipset does not support this many USB ports, but what they've done is they've used a hub. And that means you're going to be sharing some resources. That's probably a good thing because it's not going to pull any PCI Express lanes or any resources away from anything else. So you'll be able to, run a lot of graphics cards and not have to worry about it. But if you're ever trying to use like 6 or 8, USB 3 hard drives all at the same time like a crazy person, then you're going to experience some slowdown because it's going to be sharing resources. All right. As far as the VGA options go, we have HDMI. Then we have a VGA port and a DVI port, and then behind that we have, of course, 2 more USB 2.0 and PS2 combo for your old school devices. I love PS2, man. All right, now let's take a look at the PCI Express area. There's a lot of fun stuff going on here. You'll notice that the first slot is a 1-speed PCI Express, and that is exactly where I like to see that because it's not going to get in the way of some of the larger tower heat sinks out there. And just below there, just behind that, I guess, we have an M.2 slot. Of course, that's capable of 10 gigabits per second because it's using the PCI Express bus and not the SATA bus, so thank you very much. And this will support pretty much all of the form factors as far as M.2 goes. So that's a really, really, really good positioning here. Now, if you're going to be running all 3 graphics cards at the same time, well, you're going to eat some resources. So it's going to run at 16, 8, and 4. So there you go. We have another 1-speed PCI Express slot in there. And we also have 2 legacy PCI slots. This thing's past proof, man. So all you guys out there complaining about motherboards not having legacy, they've got 2 of them right here. So that covers almost all of the components here. Now let's take a look at the UEFI. Now I did put together a little system here just to show you the UEFI. I might end up doing some testing with this, and I'm probably going to do a build with this. I really like this motherboard. But the system here that we have, we've got the Kingston HyperX 3K SSD. Really like that one. It's it's been out for a long time, but it's still one of the fastest in its price range out there. Tried and true SandForce controller, of course. And then we have 2 sticks of the Kingston Fury memory, which is really good as far as price performance goes. In fact, it's really just all about really good price, but the performance is still way up there. Then we have the fractal design. It's the Tesla 1000 watt power supply, so lots of clean power going to the system. And we have no graphics card in the system right now. Just have the Intel 4690K. And that is overclocked. And then, of course, the Neptune 280L from Cooler Master on here. Just spamming that delete key. There we go. All right, here we are in the UEFI. And as you can see, it's dark and moody. There's sort of a grid here. And let's just go through. We got fast boot options, of course. And let's put it on ultra fast, man. We've got all UEFI compatible stuff. So, yeah, just basic stuff. Boot sequence. You can drag and drop stuff, just your basic stuff here. There's your SATA controller. AHCI is what I want, unless you're running, software RAID or whatever. Security, you can set up passwords. And, of course, you got your startup options. All right, let's go ahead and check out the advanced mode here. Actually, let's exit and come back in and do that. There's a lot you can do with this UEFI. I found it to be pretty usable, actually. Just the performance here, you got your basic performance stuff. I'm not going to go through this. I just want you guys to basically see what's on the screen. I'll show you some of the other UEFI modes as well. Yay, manual. Fast boot is enabled. I'm going to leave my timings alone, but you can control just about every part of your, everything that's going on with your memory. There's your memory multiplier and all that sort of thing. As far as your voltage control goes, you've got way too many options. I mean, everything you're going to need. That's what makes these some of the best motherboards out there for overclocking, you know, aside from the fact that they use pretty good components, or really good components for your VREGs and everything. Load line calibration is the only thing you might need to play with here if you're doing an extreme overclock, maybe some of this other stuff, but you know, if you're really going for a high overclock, you may need to come in and crank this up a bit. If it keeps crashing, that's always something that I play with. You're just voltage control. I'm running a bit of an overclock right now, 1.29 volts. I wouldn't recommend going, you know, too high on this. I mean, you can keep an eye on things, but you know, you don't want this to get too hot. And if you start getting to 1.35 and stuff like that, it might start getting really hot depending on your cooling options. But you know, you have controls for everything, including the GPU, the onboard GPU. Chipset voltage control, of course, and then there's your memory voltage control. 1.5 is, you know, what it comes out of the factory at. You may need to crank it up if you want to do any aggressive memory overclocking. Let's go take a quick look at the other UEFIs by spamming delete. Spamming delete. Here is classic mode. You guys have seen this before, but you've got access to, you know, pretty much all the settings. I actually think I might prefer classic mode. It's just less busy, and you can still get, you know, your hands dirty in any way you like. A lot of control here, so you know, you can really pick any UEFI version that you want and play around with it, and you've got enough options in the UEFI to really take full control over the overclock and just full control over just pretty much everything. All right, now we're in Windows. I want to show you what we have here. Of course, you got the live updates. There's a few apps that you can take advantage of. I want to show you the EasyTune software, because that's the one that I was using for some overclocking. And when you first go in there, you've got you know, settings to do just a quick overclock. I generally don't like to use these. The Extreme actually worked pretty well, and it you know, it was running at 4.5 gigahertz, and it was at 1.29 volts, so it's not terrible, but I think we could probably do better than that. Some CPUs will run at lower voltages at that, you know, frequency. You also have auto tuning, and I ran this and hit 5.1 gigahertz, and it didn't melt anything, but it was getting way too high as far as the voltage goes, so I decided not to use that. It was getting like 1.45 and stuff like that. That's stuff that you know, AMD 8 cores do and stuff, and I was like, no, not for me. So yeah, I didn't want to mess around with that. So the real way to mess with this thing is to come in here and play around in this area. There we go. We got all the multipliers here. We can quickly just go ahead and you know, let's try out 45 voltage core. Let's see here what we got. 1.25 volts there. You also have offset mode, which I like. That should be pretty much all I'm going to change for now. I'm going to go ahead and apply this and see if it works. I should have tried this before I did this, but yeah. And you can set it up to retain the overclock settings after reboot, you know, or you can just go put these settings into your UEFI if it works out just fine. And then I like to use Ada Extreme because Prime 95 is not certified to work on these CPUs, and you can damage things, so don't mess around with it. Let's just go ahead and make sure everything's running correctly. Got our CPU ID going over here. And let's do a little stability test, and I usually let these run for 10 or 15 minutes at minimum just to make sure they work. Yeah, here we go. Ramping up, you guys can hear that in the background. As you can see, we're running just fine at, yeah, 1.248 volts. Not bad at all. So this board has a lot of features. I mean, like a lot of features. And it's going to be good for... It's going to be good for a lot of different things. That's what's crazy about it. It's in this weird area where it can do workstation stuff. It can do, like, I mean, it's got server grade stuff in some areas, but it can also be an enthusiast part. And at the same time, it's got, you know, your past proof, plus you got all these new options for the future. So tons of options right here. There are certainly better motherboards for specialized things. You know, if you don't need any PCI and you want more PCI Express or whatever, there's going to be a motherboard perhaps that's more geared exactly to what you want. But as far as having this many features on one board, there's not many like it as far as you know, the Z97 line goes. So I'm probably going to use this for a build, and I would recommend that you do the same if you like it and you like the aesthetic. It's always important too, but that's up to you. See you guys in the next video, whenever that is. with the plastic bag. They're like, no one should ever say I was trying to be quiet while holding a plastic bag in their hands. It's like people at the theater trying to open like a mint. All right, back to this thing. See you guys in the next video, whenever that is. If I ever, I'm probably gonna quit because I'm just gonna play with this, and I got another job. I didn't tell you guys. I'm an ore hauler now. Got a big truck because I hate mountains. I'm gonna move them all to the ocean. Basically, I just want to, put all the rocks in the ocean, so the ocean rises and covers Florida. I've been polluting every day, knowing that one day Florida's going to be underwater. Aerosol cans into the air.